Now, before we dive in today, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like a bad credit score was holding you back? Like a weight around your ankles, keeping you from reaching your full financial potential? Well, today we're going to break free from those chains. We're talking all about repairing bad credit. We're going to take some concrete steps towards a brighter financial future, and most importantly, doing it all while keeping our faith front and center. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ask Ralph show. It's Motivational Monday. You know what that means? We're tackling a challenge head on with faith as our guide to help you achieve financial peace and, more importantly, financial freedom. Now, yesterday we had a powerful conversation about biblical tithing and how that act of faith can unlock blessings in all areas of your lives. Remember, it's not about the amount, but the heart behind your giving. You can check that out at our website. That's at AskRalphPodcast.com. Well, speaking of hearts, we received a heartfelt message from a listener. Her name is Faith, and she wrote this. Dear Ralph, I made some financial mistakes in the past, and now my credit score is really hurting. I feel stuck. It's affecting everything, from getting a loan to even renting an apartment. I'm trying to rebuild my life, but this bad credit seems like a constant setback. Ralph, what can I do to fix it? And how long is it realistically going to take? I'm also worried about falling prey to scams. Any advice would be a blessing. Thank you, Faith. You know, Faith's story is more common than you might think. So many people are struggling with bad credit, feeling overwhelmed and unsure of where to turn. But let me tell you, there is hope. There is a path forward, and it starts right here, right now. Today's topic is close to my heart because I've been there. Just like Faith, I've seen the weight of bad credit firsthand. But I've also experienced the incredible freedom that comes from rebuilding it. And let me tell you, that journey is possible for each and every one of us. Now, before we get into practical steps, Faith, let's turn to Scripture for guidance. Proverbs 22:7 reminds us the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, this verse isn't condemning borrowing, but it highlights the importance of wise financial stewardship and avoiding unnecessary debt that can lead to a place of burden. So, Faith, let's talk about repairing your credit. Listen, it's not about quick fixes or magic tricks. This takes time. It takes dedication, and it takes a healthy dose of faith. No pun intended there, Faith. So what are some concrete steps you can take starting today, Faith? Well, let's start with step 1. Know where you stand. Faith, this is really the important part. Order a copy of your credit report from all 3 credit bureaus. That's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I don't know if you know this or not, but you can get a free copy every 12 months from annualcreditreport.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. This is your financial report card. It shows you where you've made mistakes and what needs improvement. So I encourage you to also consider signing up for a credit monitoring service. I use one as I discussed last week on the show, and it can really make a huge difference in managing and repairing your credit. So step 1, get your credit reports in front of you. Let's move on to step 2, and that's to dispute errors. So Faith, this is the time to carefully review your credit reports for inaccuracies. It's not uncommon to find errors, and even small ones can have a huge impact on your score. So Faith, if you find an error, dispute it with the credit bureaus in writing. Be sure to provide supporting documentation. Faith, it's important to keep a keen eye on your credit, and you have to know exactly where it stands at every moment. You have to be super proactive here and be ready to provide proof of inaccuracies. So that's step number 2. Number 3, create a budget and stick to it. Now, Faith, this is crucial. You need to understand where your money's going so you can free up funds to pay down debt and start savings. Remember this, Philippians 4:13 tells us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is a time to lean on your faith. As you create that budget that reflects your financial goals, I know you're saying, there goes Ralph, harping on those budgets again, but it's the master plan for fixing and maintaining your credit. If you have a budget, but more importantly, if you stick to your budget, you should never find yourself unable to pay your bills, and thus you'll never negatively impact your credit. Let's move on to step number 4. It's kind of a no-brainer. Pay your bills on time. This is one of the most important factors in your credit score. Faith, I would set up reminders. Use online bill pay or even consider automatic payments to ensure you never miss a due date. There should never be a time when you don't pay your bills on time. It's just that simple. Let's move on to step number 5, and that's reduce your credit utilization. Talked about this last week as well. This refers to the amount of credit you're using compared to your total available credit. Now, ideally, you want to keep that credit utilization below 30%, Faith. Paying down your balances is the best way to improve this ratio. If you find you're going over this 30%, you may want to see if you can increase your credit limit. But listen, put on the brakes for a second. Don't use that as an excuse for taking on more debt. You just don't want to do that. And finally, step number 6, become an authorized user. So Faith, if you've got a trusted friend or family member with good credit, again, I stress with good credit, ask them to add you as an authorized user on their credit card account. This will give your credit score a boost, but make sure they have a good history of on-time payments. You don't want to get into another bad situation. Now, you might be wondering, as Faith said, Ralph, how long will this take? Well, unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It truly depends on the severity of your credit issues and how diligently you follow these steps. It could take several months to several years to see significant improvement. But here's the thing, Faith, don't get discouraged. Remember what Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And speaking of not giving up, let's talk about those credit repair scams. Faith mentioned these. So these are some things to keep in mind, Faith. They prey on people who are desperate for a quick fix. But trust me, there are no shortcuts in fixing your credit. So here are some red flags to watch out for. Watch out for companies that promise to erase negative information from your credit report. Only inaccurate information can be removed, and you can dispute that yourself for free. There's no magic here, and anyone who claims they can get you a new identity or credit report number just plain scamming you and lying to you. I saw the other day where a company actually promoted getting you an employment identification number through the IRS, that's an EIN, to use for applying for credit. It's a huge red flag scam, so don't get into that one. Watch for companies that ask you to pay for their services up front. This is actually illegal. Credit repair companies can only charge you after they provided the promised services. If they want your money at the start, run the other direction. And finally, watch out for companies that advise you to lie on your credit applications or create a new credit identity. We mentioned this a minute ago. This is not only unethical, but it's also illegal and can have serious consequences. Having worked in the credit industry for many years, trust me, I've seen all kinds of scams and schemes and ideas, but the answer is really not that complicated. You have to fix your credit and honor it over time. Remember, Faith, rebuilding your credit takes time and effort. Don't fall for these scams. Instead, focus on the steps we discussed earlier. And if you're unsure about something, seek advice from a reputable financial counselor. You can actually reach out to me through AskRalphPodcast.com/store and schedule a consultation. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Repairing your credit is not just about improving your financial situation. It's about restoring your integrity. It's about honoring God with your finances and stepping into the fullness of what He has for you. Remember this, Faith. You are not defined by your credit score. You're a child of God, worthy of love, worthy of forgiveness, and worthy of a bright future. So take these steps, stay the course, and watch as God does amazing things in your life. Well, don't forget to visit our website. That's at AskRalphPodcast.com. And join our email list for more financial wisdom and resources. As a special thank you for being a loyal listener, you're going to receive a copy of my book, absolutely free. It's called Mastering Your Finances. This normally sells for $10 on Amazon, but that's right. It's absolutely free when you join our email list. And if you're enjoying the Ask Ralph Show, please take a moment to share it with your friends. Share it with family members and others who will benefit from the show. Let's spread the message of faith and finance far and wide. And remember, if you've got a question you'd like answered on the show, just like Faith, send it our way. We'd love hearing from you. I love answering your questions, just like the one today from Faith. Well, that's it for today's show. Join me tomorrow when we'll be diving into the exciting world of faith-based investing. We're going to explore some practical principles and tools to help you invest your money in alignment with your values. It's going to be a powerful conversation. You don't want to miss it. So as I always say, until then, stay financially savvy And God bless you, and work on that credit report, Faith.
Thank you for joining us on the Ask Ralph podcast. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. And remember, financial issues don't have to be complicated. Just ask Ralph. The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media, Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.